Hey, what's up? This is your girl Diamond, and I am so excited about this show because I have been wanting this person on the show since I met them. And it's, I mean, this is somebody who, there's certain people who I feel like everybody is calling everybody brilliant, but I think that this person is brilliant. Just the way they talk, just the way they think about things, the way they bridge the gap from your grandma's porch to academia. They immediately bridge that gap for me when they talk, how they speak, who they center, and those are the type of motherfuckers that I like in my life, that I like to listen to, that I like to hear. So I want to introduce y'all to Zerandrian Morris.
Hi.
Welcome to Marsha's Play.
I'm so glad there was no like bio or send me this official. Oh, thank you.
I know you don't like bios, so I don't either because it gives me more time to talk. Let them hear you talk your shit, your ignorant shit.
I talk a lot of shit. My first thing was like I could cuss, right?
Exactly. We gotta cuss.
Thank you.
Oh, guys. So I want to welcome you to Marsha's Play. I mean, I wanted to start with.
But wait, why you named it that? Why is it named Marsha's Play?
Why is the name Marsha's Play? So, of course, it's named after the iconic pioneer, Marsha P. Johnson.
P. Johnson. Yes.
Yes. When I was brainstorming the podcast to come to fruition, it was around the hype of Solange's album, A Seat at the Table. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, well, we want a seat at the table too. Well, trans folks want a seat at the table. Queer folks want a seat at the table. Black women want a seat. Everybody want a seat at the table. So I was like, well, okay, around that theme of sitting at the table and feast and cookouts. And I was like, okay, so I'm gonna say Marsha's Plate, like a plate of food. So my idea is to serve up what I didn't see. I didn't see trans folks being centered in political conversations and cultural conversations. And so I wanted, outside of bathroom bills and shit like that, I wanted I wanted it to be a more authentic and down home kind of conversation where we talked about things outside of that because, that's annoying. So Marsha's Plate was perfect.
Okay.
So, you call yourself the ignorant intellectual. Can you explain ignorant intellectual?
Yeah. It's funny because it came back. It's kind of like the universe brought it back. So I had, at first, I'm not good with what years things happen, but maybe, let's say 10 years ago, it used to be the ignorant intellectual : the bridge between the hood and the ivory tower.
So I was right. Exactly.
Yeah. But I didn't have all of I'm a person, I go by, I could feel stuff, but I didn't have all of the language. And speaking of the academy, it like forces you, some of the mandates of the academy is if it is not written, concise, and put into words, it is not valid. And part of the reason
or not connected to white men's work.
Okay. Because that's partially why I dropped out of my PhD program, but because of that, what you just said. But ignorant don't mean ignorant, meaning like you don't know something. It's just, you have said things and I'd be like, damn it, ignorant as hell. But it is masterful. It is not without knowing. It's just, to me, you know what, you live in Houston, I'm from the South. You from Texas?
No, I'm from Indianapolis, but all my folks is from Mississippi. I was raised by Southern Mississippi country ass folks, Louisiana too.
So you already know, if you want to talk about something, your family members can astutely talk about it. It just is going to be a long ass conversation. It is not about to be short and concise. But they're not ignorant. And to me, it takes somebody who can make it comedic, intellectual, factual, all of these things at the same time. that, to be very transparent, white folk can't always do. Like, it's ignorant, but it's intellectual. But I also hesitated calling anything the ignorant intellectual, because I didn't want people to feel like I was making a binary that the intellectual is not inside of ignorance, or it's not inside of the hood, or it's not inside of these things. Because people be quick to either or instead of both and. So I did hesitate for a little while. But ignorant intellectualism, if I just say the ignorant intellectual is somebody who can break shit down without worried about what white people thinking about it, they kind of unapologetic about it, that's one way of saying it. But if I was describing the ignorant intellectual to a client, because they ask the same questions, I would be like, it is when whiteness is not at the epicenter. It is when whiteness is not centered. It is when we are doing work for communities and we are not prioritizing whitewashed ways of doing that work. And so part of it is really like living life in a way that's just authentic to who the hell we are. The ignorant intellectual is brilliant yet accessible, smart yet commonplace. Like, you could say the same thing three different ways. Like, I could talk to my mama about hegemony. Patricia understands decentering whiteness, but she is never going to use them type of words.
Right.
Like, and a conversation with her is going to be long. It's going to be longer than like a 5-minute conversation.
Right.
And I'm Southern, so that's the long-winded way of answering your question. Ignorant intellectual is like, you know how Toni Morrison writes outside of the white gaze? Like, she is known for decent. Her interviews be these white women being like, well, what about the white people? And Toni Morrison is like,
what?
Fuck y'all.
You don't understand how racist that is, do you?
Right. And then the white lady, she was so confused. She was like, even your question, I forgot how she worded it. Even the mere asking is racist. That white lady was confused as hell. She didn't say exactly the mere question, but she said something about even the interrogation is racist.
Right. Because you can't fathom being outside of the center. That's literally what she said. You can't fathom being outside of the center. I have to write about y'all motherfuckers.
Right.
In your mind, I have to come write about y'all. No, fuck that.
Yes. And I just really enjoy, so, you know, they having these jokes like, where we gonna go now that COVID or whatever. Everybody talk about Ghana or whatever. So I don't know, this is not a realistic thing, but I was talking to one group of friends, my 2 straight black women friends, and one of them was saying she was going to Ghana. And I said, well, Leslie, you know, they don't really like the gays, so I'm gonna just have to visit you. And she said, oh shit, like, that's my heterosexual privilege. Like, I get to travel without considering whether a country, you know, cares about my sexuality. So then I'm talking to my friend who is a lot like me in gender expression. And he's like, I'm going back to Korea because he served in the army. A trans man served in the army in Korea. And I was like, but Korea, we're the black people in Korea. But for him, Korea was more accepting of his gender identity. Like, him and his wife never got, nothing happened to them, holding hands or nothing. And so I'm left with this, do I choose Korea because they okay with my gender expression, or do I fucking go to Ghana where it's all the blacks, but they might, you know, fuck me up for being queer? Where do I go? That's intersectionality in action, but it's also like, I realized I would go to Ghana first. And my friend will go to Korea because gender leads for him. And for me, race leads in a way that's just, I think I understand black homophobia and transphobia a little more than I understand Korean anti-blackness.
Why?
Like, I'm more fluent. I mean, I'm from a black city. I went to an HBCU. And I think I can navigate. Now, the difference is that is not Black American homophobia. That would be continental African homophobia. So that's another group of cultural differences. But I just feel like I would be constantly looking for the Black people in Korea in ways I might not be looking for the non-binary people in Ghana. And I know I just created a binary just to give that example, but they say you know certain devils more than the other ones. I just think I'm probably more fluent in Black homophobia, transphobia.
And how to navigate that. I can say that, I totally agree. I'd much rather be in Ghana and deal with the homophobia with those Black folks there than to deal with the anti-Blackness in, like, I feel like I wouldn't, I can't even have the visual. I can't even have the beauty of the visual. No, I can't even, I wouldn't even consider.
Yeah. And I would think that, well, this might be a stretch, but I wonder where whiteness is most decentered. Is it in African countries or is it in East Asian countries? And I think that might be a subconscious question I'm asking myself. But I just think I'm more versed in Blackness being centered and having to navigate the other identities than I am in having gender being centered and navigating potentially race and
So as we go into gender, I know this is something that a lot of people want to talk to you about because you have so much nuance around it. So let's talk about your gender. You consider yourself agender. That is the label that you like.
That's my favorite thing.
That's your favorite one. So, and there's other ones that agender is your favorite, but there's, non-binary, you cool with that. Trans masculine, you cool with that. You're okay with girl, but you're not okay with woman, because you feel like you didn't evolve in that. So explain all of that to me. I know about it because I know your ass.
You know me.
But explain that.
So you did, okay, let me think. I'm gonna go from the last one you said, because that's the one I remember. I am okay with girl for the very reason that you said. It's because, and this is literally the best way to describe it, like I told you, it's time. It's literally, I, for example, have no clue. Well, I'm learning it now as an adult, but I have no cemented, grew up in it, aged in it over time idea of what it's like to be neither boy nor man. I have had manhood thrust on me, so I cannot say what it's like to be a boy. And when I use boy and man, I'm simply talking about age, young, older. I'm not necessarily complicating it that much. So now that I'm walking through the world and people sometimes think I'm a man, it helps me see that the ways in which masculinity in certain ways work actually is really tight. And it's a lot. Girl, I want to always offer that I am bound by the fact that I'm talking to you in words, I'm talking to you in English, I'm searching for words and concepts that don't necessarily exist in English, etc. So even in me trying to convey, sometimes we talked about this when we was eating seafood. Sometimes when you try to articulate things in word, it dilutes it immediately. The moment I have to put something into words or language, that thing is made flat. And so sometimes when I try to talk about gender, I feel like immediately if I'm trying to talk to you, I feel like we was when we was eating, we did more grunts and and we got that connection through sound more than we did when we was trying to use words.
Right.
Like you was like, yeah, cause and I was like, yes, which is, and I had this person who speaks Spanish was like, well, sometimes when you're forced into a colonized language, that's what happens with colonial languages. It flattens every fucking thing. And I was like, yeah, that is so true. So girl versus woman, I never aged into a woman identity, which people are surprised. I went to an all-girl high school. I went to an all-girl HBCU, all-women's college.
Spelman College. You're a Spelmanite, but you're not a Spelman woman. Right?
You frozen. Am I frozen?
You're frozen. I said
okay, you back now.
I said
Yes.
you're a Spelmanite, but you're not a Spelman woman.
Yes. And I'm a proud ass Spelmanite. Like, and people be like, well, what would you have done if I had this gender identity when I was 17, I might not have gone to Spelman College, is one thing. Easy answer. I don't know. I think that we agree in this. There is beauty in specified spaces. There is magic in this space is for this group, etc. And so I think as a girl, I never felt those signals you get of gender disruption as a girl. Like I felt gender expression disruption because I probably didn't want to put on dresses, but I didn't feel my gender identity was doing anything that wasn't girl. Like I was a girl. I just was a girl that didn't always want to wear dresses. I was a girl that roughhoused. I was a girl that was a tomboy. I used to run and rip and run and climb the trees, but my gender identity was solidly a girl. And gender identity and gender, I'm gonna show your audience though, gender identity and gender expression ain't the same. So my gender expression has never been overtly uber femme, ever. My gender identity, and so like many people, I evolved through sexuality. I realized I like girls. I never identified as a lesbian. And then I think I was good and grown. When I say good and grown in my 20s, when I realized my gender identity wasn't woman. That word never felt like it landed and draped over me in a way that was what it didn't make me warm and fuzzy.
So before you go into the gender identity, I want to, how did you not get to lesbian if you identified as a girl and liked girls? How did you not make that connection?
I don't know. I never used that word to describe myself. I said I like girls. Even when I told my mama, I said I like girls. I didn't say I'm a lesbian. And it's funny because my mama is not one that calls me her daughter ever a lot. She has always referred to me as my child. And I'm not saying that to make people think Patricia is affirming in any way. I want to be clear. My mama is a 73-year-old Southern boomer. And sometimes what could be misconstrued as affirmation is more like adherence to. So for example, I took my mom, I think it was for her 60th birthday, to see Color Purple on at the Fox. And the book is much more detailed than the movie. And the play is much more like the book. So Patricia, of course, knows The Color Purple like the back of her hand. So Celie, Suge kisses Celie. The lady in front of us squirms a bit. She's like, No, the lady behind us, you could hear her grunting behind us. Suge kisses Celie the second time. The lady's like, oh my. The third kiss, which is the final kiss, she was like, she turns to whoever and was like, what have you brought me to? This is where it is not my mother supporting me. It is adherence to Alice Walker's body of work. She turns around and tells the woman, clearly you haven't read the book.
Come on, Patricia!
Come on, Patricia. Patricia was not supporting two women kissing. Don't be clear. She was supporting Alice Walker that told you 50-11 times what's going to happen on the stage, lady. And I say that because I don't think my mother calling me her child is overtly in her mind supportive of my gender expression. It might be the universe giving language to something that maybe she doesn't overtly talk about. But she had, even as a girl, my mama never. And I'm from a city that is so queer.
We're going to get into that. Don't be getting into that. We're going to get into that.
Okay, I'm going to go back to girls. So I just never, I don't know why. I never said I was a lesbian. And I think that time, so we speak of time like this linear thing. I think time lags, time gets ahead. Like it is, I remember when I was in Italy and I typed, it's the same moment, but the U.S. hasn't started its day, and Italy is ending the same day that the U.S. has not started, the same like it was a Tuesday. And I think that maybe our spirits are sometimes ahead of our physical. And so maybe I knew I wasn't a lesbian, although in that moment, I never knew I was not a woman. I didn't have that. I didn't know that yet. But I think my spirit knew, don't attach to lesbian because that's not you, because you need a woman, and you're not a woman. I just think that sometimes the universe and God is not moving in linear time like we are.
Okay.
And I just never connected to lesbian. I would say I like girls or I like women. But I think because that speaks to who I like. But if I would have said I'm a lesbian, that then inserts an identity.
Yeah. Okay.
That I didn't have.
So, okay, so now let's go into gender identity. So after you got to the point where, okay, now this identity thing is coming up, where I don't feel as locked to growing into womanhood as somebody else might be. How did you get to the point where you were like, okay, well, maybe this trans thing is a thing?
Yeah, and notice I don't identify as a trans man. I identify as trans masculine.
Yes.
And I don't even know if trans masculine is, so to me, trans man is a noun, but to me, trans masculine is still an adjective describing a person.
Right.
And so even in 2020 on this call, I have never identified as a trans man, noun. I am a trans masculine person, adjective. And so I don't know if I ever got locked into my identities as a noun.
Mm-hmm.
They've always been adjectives that described my being. Even agender, I'm an agender person, or a person that like is without, you know, Key Dorian?
Sounds familiar.
He was the very first person that helped me see that, Z, you don't have to identify in these popular terms. You don't have to, you know. And it was a liberatory, very quick, it wasn't like a deep conversation, but it was very liberating in a sense that it's like, agender feels like a warm blanket because it is without. Like, I literally don't feel like I have a gender whatsoever. I don't.
Right.
And I know some very, you know, kind of conservative trans folk who are like, not only am I a trans man, I'm like, trans man. And I'm like, I don't know that life. You know, I love you and I think you're amazing, but I don't know that life.
So what led you, I know you said you took hormones for like 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So what led you to that and then stopping?
I think I was on that kind of non-spoken enforced timeline thing. You have you probably are a stud. Then you probably start binding. Then you probably want to play with your name a little bit. Then eventually you might get on T, and then you might get top surgery. And I think I was, you know, because the first thing I was asked when I was identifying as trans masculine is, well, when you having top surgery? And I'll be like, well, nah, I'm not. I've been called a fake tranny. I've been called so many things.
Yes.
So I remember I was living in Philly when I was on T because I was going to the Mazzoni Center to get my moans. I was going to the Walgreens, the Mazzoni Center Walgreens. And I think I got on it because I felt like that's what trans people do. It's not always deep. I really thought that was the next step. And if I could do it.
Literally go to like websites that say, like I remember back in the day before, now the young folks got all the resources to know what to do. But when I was growing up in 95, 90, 96, 97, what we on the internet was this site called TS Roadmap. And exactly
wow,
called TS Roadmap. And it's old school. I think it's still up or whatever. But they literally showed you, they had links to how to print out your name change stuff. It was literally a roadmap of what this is, if you want to do this, this is what you do. How to get hormones, how to do this, what the doctors, literally a roadmap to that. And so if you were, if you didn't know, and you said, okay, I know what trans is and I identify with trans. This is literally informing you that this is the path that you go on, even if may not even be comfortable with this stuff yet, but it's telling you this is what's next. And then your community is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. It doesn't even give you room, you don't think, to do other things. That's what you're reminding me of.
And I just thought that was my roadmap. If I could do it over P, I would probably not allow people to call me Z. I think Z came about, I know people where they know me from based on if they call me, if they, my age. My family, my old friends, they don't call me Z, they call me Shoni.
Yeah, I can
tell. Some kind of way people saw Zerandrian, they saw a lot of letters, they was like, fuck it, I ain't gonna even try Z. But I also think Z came about with this D and Key and Z and Kaylin and the changing of the chopping and the merging of names. And I remember before getting on T or before trans identity, I commanded people call me Zerandrian. If you was gonna not call me Shoni. And I think that's something about Z, which I'm over it. I'm fine with Z now, but I think Z is somewhat swept up in this trans process too, of like, okay, you identify as trans, play with the name a bit, because a lot of trans men have very feminine sounding names. I don't. And then it's the roadmap. And I'm sure some of the roadmap, even if it wasn't on that website, some of the roadmap is around names and chosen names and nicknames and,
Yeah. My co-host, the trans masculine representation is Zaire, and we call him Z.
Z. Yep.
Well, not because he likes it. That's what he told us to tell him.
Yeah.
So that's funny that you say that. Let's talk about your hometown. So for anybody that don't know, you are from New Orleans, if you can't hear it in your voice. And the history of New Orleans is, as far as race and as far as gender, is queer as fuck. Like if you know the history, like it's particularly like around music, you had like Sissy Nobi, you had Katie Red, you had just so many people that, and nowadays it's Big Frida. It's just that's in music and race. When we talk about the history of like Creole and history of what white is, or history of what Black looks like, what it looks like and what it is, and how it wasn't necessarily. If New Orleans, Louisiana,
it's so much.
It's so much. Louisiana was first. It was owned by the French. Then it was owned by the Spanish. Then it was owned back to the French, I think, and then back then to the U.S. in the Louisiana Purchase. And so within this, within these political changes happening, there was a lot of cultural stuff that was happening. So instead of it being like a two-caste system, like in other parts of the United States, it was almost like a three-caste system. So it just everything just looked fucking different in New Orleans in regards to race and in regards to gender. It's a queer it always had a level of acceptance for queer folks. It just really did. That in culture, they were always present, or either as entertainment or as just in community. And so describe that for me.
Even my people be looking at my high school yearbook before Katrina. I don't think I have. My mama might have them, but people would think that some of my friends who was Black was white, some of the girls from high school, and it is 3. And another dynamic is we have the most Vietnamese people outside of Vietnam in New Orleans. So you could roll up to a fast food place, think you talking to a Black girl at the McDonald's, and you get up to the window and she is Vietnamese and she sounds just like me. And that's another level of ethnicity on top of race. And when I say New Orleans is queer as fuck, I do not flatten that to mean whose body parts are touching whose body parts.
Sexuality. No, it's more than that.
I mean, just even the straight cis people have queer politics in a way that, and when we say Frida and Katie Red, Frida been out. Frida just maybe hit mainstream more so, right. But it's in the music. It's in the fact that in New Orleans, the term sissy is not a pejorative because a lot of the rappers, Sissy Nobi, Sissy Shannon, all of these people they known as sissies and they call each other sissy. And if they don't have sissy in the front of their name, it's still a cultural, it's just so normal.
Right.
It's just so normal. I mean, parts of Mardi Gras is queer as fuck. And that's a mainstream event. Even the straight dudes at home, you don't hear too many negative happenings around cis Black men harming people because they're trans in New Orleans. And I think some of that is because it's just baked in, it's just normalized.
Yeah, you'll have a random incident like China. I remember China Gibson passed away in New Orleans. She got murdered in New Orleans, but we don't really know the details of that. But it just seems the men in New Orleans seems a little, they just like, in my younger years, I would call it, they just hip on shit. Like they just on it. Like when I go to New Orleans, you barely had to tell a motherfucker your tea. Or when you tell them, like it ain't no, I ain't gotta break it all down. It ain't like if I'm in Mississippi where I gotta really break it down. But in New Orleans, it seems like, oh, I know what's up with that. Like it's almost like it's a part. They have cultural references. They have. It's just different. It just feels how they approach it is very different and a little bit more accepting.
It is, and I think that's what I'm like. It's like when something is baked into from when you was young. It's kind of like, okay, why are you telling me that? Mm-hmm. It's cool. And it was, yes, it's high crime and all of that, but it's not an everyday thing of navigating gender or sexuality quite in the same way as other places. Even 45 minutes, Baton Rouge or Lafayette or,
Right. And it was something else I think you've talked about before, and one of the things why I connect with you so much is because you say things and sometimes I have tried to articulate them, and you just have in this particular context you just had a better like sharp analysis of it. I think queerness in the South it's a unique level of even how Southern people deal with queerness because of respectability politics of the South. How they deal with queerness, although because it's the Bible Belt, it still is a level of decorum that happens. It's a level of, even if it's
New Orleans is Southern, but there's a difference.
It's like a sweet queerness.
Yeah.
Like
because it's not New Orleans. You could pull New Orleans out, or just even aesthetically, New Orleans don't look like the South.
No,
it looks like a hodgepodge of like the Caribbean plus maybe Central America plus France. Like
Yeah.
That's why when you say we went from France to Spain to France to being owned by, like, it don't even look like it. Don't the buildings, the architecture, the ways of being don't even look like traditional Southern ways.
Yeah. And I think that if I was the analogy I kind of use, there's and not just, and this is in the South in general for me, but the queerness in the South, how they handle it, it's almost like queerness is like sweet tea, and up north is queerness is like Coca-Cola. It's a harshness. It's a harshness to queerness and how it's responded to in the North as opposed to the South. And that's a nuance that people who don't live in the South would not understand.
They don't understand. Yeah.
Because even
but do you think it's because that's where trading happened and there was not this sharp hatred, that sharp hatred of queerness, it wasn't pushed all the way out of our cultures? Maybe that's part of what it is. It's that it still resides, still part of that affirmation of straddling the physical and the spiritual world might still reside baked into the culture of the South.
Mm-hmm.
That the North gets inappropriately bucked up, in my opinion. It is assumed that the North is this liberatory place when it's not necessarily. It just shows up covertly.
Right.
In the North.
Right. Definitely.
And I think we need to honor the spirituality of the South, and that Black spirituality may actually affirm queerness more than we give credit for it.
Way more. And if you're not thinking about, particularly in New Orleans, if you're not thinking about the Christian in the white Baptist,
correct,
that kind of form, we're talking about Black spirituality.
Yes.
That got some witchy spiritual shit that's going on, particularly in New Orleans, but this is throughout the South. Black folks always queered Christianity. It was a little bit different than than what the white folks gave. It was just a little bit. It was more connected to the earth. It was more connected. Even us bringing when we're doing marriages and bringing the broom in for people to jump on it. That was some witchy ass shit. That was connected to Christianity. So because of that queering, it also gave room for some other things to kind of creep in.
Correct. Well, when you blacken a thing, you queer a thing.
Boom. Inherently.
And so when we say New Orleans have the most Black Catholics in the country, concentrated, to the point where I did not realize how white Catholicism was. Catholicism is Black to me because I'm from New Orleans, which has the most Black Catholics of anywhere.
In
the U.S. I mean, we might be able to talk about places like Brazil or, Black countries, but when we talk about the U.S., I thought Catholicism was a Black religion, honey. People was like, girl, what? Catholicism is white. I was like, oh, because my understanding of Catholicism is through Blackness.
Right.
And that's why I be like, wait, are you talking about like Charles Stanley, Jimmy Swaggart? Or are you talking about like Paul S. Morton, Creflo Dollar? Like who? Are you talking about Black Christianity, white Christianity? Because what we talk about? Because again, when something is Black, it is queer. By default.
And folks don't be wanting to accept it, but that's what the fuck it is.
That's fucking what it is. That's what it is.
Oh.
That's how I began to learn more about Lilith. I thought that damn Eve was Adam's first wife, child. Till a Black elder
pulled you on in.
Girl, sit down. Let me talk to you about Lilith, honey. But I think that if you want to control the people, I guess you gotta remove that stuff. that fact. But New Orleans is queer. Blackness is queer. All of that robustness that people love about Blackness is the queering of your experience. Like that, the grandiosity, the big, the fun, the vibrant, the talent. Like you can't extract all that from Blackness and be left. You have taken the queerness out of it. The fact that y'all love that damn choir at church, and you know damn good and well that 9 times out of 10, it is because the director, the organist, or some musician is gay. And that is not to denigrate homosexuality. That's just to elevate a fact that what you love about the beauty of music, of Blackness, is the queering of it. Whitney Houston took Dolly Parton's song, and now people don't even damn know that Dolly Parton sang "I Will Always Love You First," because maybe not queer identified woman, but we know there was a queering inside of Whitney. That's why y'all love that.
It's no coincidence that the female voice of our nation, The Voice, and the male voice of our nation, Luther Vandross, it is no coincidence that they queer as fuck.
To the point where when somebody is super gifted and they Black, I'm automatically like, I wonder where the queer element is.
Right, where that at?
I know you introduced me to your wife last week, but I'm like, something. Yeah. It's no coincidence, like you said, that those two voices are from queer bodies.
Yeah, not at all. So, tell me, explain, you said something, I don't know the context, but I think you'll get it. You talked about, you were part of a burlesque troupe, right?
Oh, girl.
Let's shake it up a little bit. So in your heyday, you were part of a burlesque troupe.
That's Atlanta.
In Atlanta, that time, called Moxie, the queer cabaret of Caliber. Of Caliber, darling. You were a gent, and your performance name was Quentin.
Mm-hmm. You've been doing your research.
Yeah, I like the folks to know what's going on. And I want you to talk about, that experience, but also how that experience dismantle some of your biases around body, your bias around what you were attracted to, what you weren't attracted to, those kind of things. Yeah.
So Moxie was unapologetically body positive. I literally have seen people get escorted right on out for fucked up ideas, statements that came out their mouth. So Heather is the founder of Moxie, and I met Heather Pravancha because they used to be my manager at Flying Biscuit, which is a restaurant in Atlanta. And I used to be the host at Flying Biscuit, and Heather was first the manager, I think became the GM, one of the GMs. So, and one day was just like, we don't have a performance art space. And Heather created Moxie. And we had the ladies of Moxie and the gents of Moxie. And we had one person, I think, just one that I can remember, who was both a lady and a gent. Marla was a lady and a gent. And did that shit masterfully. But I think Moxie gave me language for physical attraction versus sexual attraction. I could be physically attracted to these bodies, but didn't mean that I wanted to have sex with bodies. That boobs didn't mean woman, that vagina didn't mean woman, that penis didn't mean man. It helped detach and replace concepts and shift them around, because I probably entered Moxie very like, there's one side and then there's the other side, and they stay on their sides. Man is male, is penis, and I probably entered into Moxie with that ideology. It made me reckon with race, because Moxie was all the races, all the ethnicities. It made us as a group reckon with race. And I don't know if we was doing it like, I think that the big culture can guide you. So I don't know if we were doing it for as much as we were doing it for Moxie, but I don't, it wasn't like the US is talking about race right now in that way. So that was different. I wonder what Moxie would be now if, how we would talk about it. It made me reckon with respectability around like what I term cleanliness, what assigning value to bodies and smells and things that I probably was very snooty about before, especially as a Southerner, where it's like bodies don't smell. You do all of this to keep the body from smelling. And in some ways, people were much freer around respectability and like whatever the word is. And it helped me feel more comfortable with less clothes on in public than I probably used to be, even for myself. To come out of clothes, and I wasn't nowhere near like the ladies, they would do full like pasties and shit. I wasn't on that level, but I began to feel more comfortable with people gazing at my body. And I think because they weren't necessarily gazing with that gross look that you get like street harassment kind of look, it was, you can look at a body and appreciate it and not be gawking at it. Which was way different than for me, when people looked at these hips and ass, it made me feel very gross versus an appreciation for the curvature or the hips or the ass, or to love cellulite and it's not gross and you're not getting these messages that you've been getting. Saggy breasts aren't bad, And
that's what I'm trying to think of where I got I guess what you're describing for me is how escorting, when I was an escort, how that changed my perception of my body, perception of who, being naked in front of people, just my thought process about my body totally changed when I started to give other people access to my body just to survive in that sense. At first I thought that it was going to be, I just thought it was going to be business, but it really did take me out of a caterpillar stage of like, now I could cut the lights on and be dancing and twerking and in front of a dude with no problem. Previous to this, I would be fearful. Not fearful isn't the right word. Because I didn't have the body that I wanted, particularly at that time. I didn't have everything that I wanted. I didn't have all the work. I had titties, but I didn't have the voluptuousness that I associated with a woman. And so because I didn't have those things, I wanted the lights to be off. I wanted I didn't want to be just looked at. I wanted to just be felt. I wanted to do things to you, But what forced me into accepting my body as is at that time, and as I went on, is when you're in a business where somebody's paying you to give them a service, honey, they want the lights on. They want to see every crevice. They want to see every crack. They want to rub every curve. They are appreciating you, and they want to get their money's worth of appreciating it. And so in that process, although it may be objectifying and you're putting yourself on display, it also is liberatory. It's very liberating for me, because it was like, if this motherfucker is paying this amount of money and I can sit in this light and he is like, oh my God, you're so beautiful, you're so soft, you said whatever. Then why can't I feel that? Like, why can't I?
Yeah,
why
like,
can't I feel that?
real
Why
for
can't
real.
I expect that? Why can't I? You know, so that I guess I can relate in that way. I've never been like on a stage in a group of people. That would be kind of intimidating for me as a if I was in Moxie, just on stage.
Well, you would be on stage by yourself, maybe. Or you mean in front of people?
I don't know.
Because you could do performances with other people in Moxie, or you could have a solo act on the stage.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't think I could do it with a bunch of people watching. Like, one is different, but a group of people, I guess I could if I just put my mind to it, but that would be super, super intimidating for me.
I mean, it's like Candy, famous people, they have an easier time singing in front of groups or it's the difference. Like, and it's true. I think I'm opposite. I probably could it's like, shit, fuck it. It's all y'all in here. But if you be like one person and that person is like a more intimate person, like an escort.
Oh,
but if you
I could
take this out for the whole stage, I'd be like, okay. Do you remember like your evolution of being more comfortable? Like when you
body wise?
Yeah, like the more you escorted, more you got more comfortable. Do you remember like when you first started, was it like, oh my God?
So when I first started, it was more about the client, like not about pleasing them. Well, of course, that's the comment, but I'm talking about, I was more thinking about, who is about to come through the door? Like, what type of dude? I was more focused, not necessarily on me and what I had to offer, because clearly he liked what I had to offer because he saw all my pictures is real, blah, blah, blah. So I was thinking of like, how disgusting is this client gonna be?
Gotcha.
Like, how far does this go? But luckily for me, my very first client was the most disgusting client that I've ever seen.
Oh, so it just was uphill? Yeah.
So it was uphill from there. So anything that you can think is wrong with a fucking trick, it was anything you can imagine. It was wrong with him, and it was wrong with him. White, big, had a stench, he has like some mold, skin tags on him. Like, I mean, anything you can imagine that was wrong, it was wrong.
Happened. Yeah.
And so I said, but it was the easiest money I had ever made. It was probably like 8 minutes for like $250. Right. So I was like, well, if it's like this, I can deal with it. Like, it can't get, but as I went on with escorting, you learn that there's a wide range of men who's willing to pay you. And so you get from the fine to the whack or plain Jane or whatever. And so in the beginning, I thought of it like that. But as far as my physical self, this is where I was in my personal life. I was approved. So I grew up like you. I'm from with Southern respectability rules. Yeah. So in my personal life, even though I was a hoe and doing prostitution, my personal life and how I engage with men in my personal life, I wanted to seem like a respectable woman. Yeah. So I wasn't out here doing all kinds of stuff with niggas for free. I was trying to give this image. So I wasn't really exposed in the same, my physical body. Like, for example, I lost my virginity when I was 16. Mm-hmm. Didn't have sex again until I was, I think, 18. And then didn't have a sex again until I was 23. Wow. So, and 23 is when I started escorting. So it was these, I wasn't as experienced as people would assume that I was. Yeah. And so when I started escorting, it was more about, when I started to think about my own body, that's where they got to enjoy, they got to see clients more so than normal dudes that I would date. Clients got to see my physical evolution and appreciate it when it was happening, as opposed to dudes who.
Because you had all these years of gaps and fuck.
Yes. Yeah. Because dudes would meet me and be like, clients would see me. They done met me in January. I got some titties in March. Mm-hmm. They got a little bit bigger. in June, and they still see me. So they're getting to appreciate my growth. Whereas a dude who I was dating, the dude I was dating for 5 years, I had already got all the stuff when I met him. Yeah. So he automatically just saw what I was. But clients were able to appreciate them and praise me for them in the moment of me getting them. So all the validation that I needed for my womanhood, I was literally getting from clients, not niggas.
Now, you know what's funny is, so I'm a little opposite. I probably had sex for the first time at 14. Easy. And I feel like I got more, because I told you I had a breast reduction in 2011. And I used to be a 36G. And got reduced to, I think, a 36C. Okay, so I have big boobs, small waist, big ass, and hips. And I feel like most people got attention for my physical body when I dress more like a girl. And even somewhat, I guess maybe in like tomboy phase, or I'm trying to articulate that the physical desire seems to have waned in my transmasculine identity as compared to when I was a girl or a stud or whatever. And I definitely know that back in my teenage years, I probably got more attention, whether that is on the street or in the bed, around spending time with my body in a way that multiple things are happening. So the masculine person is the aggressor. And so that's part of what I mean when I say I don't know how to be a man. Like, I'm not player, try to holler at people. I don't have the ability to even do that thing. And I'm not gonna say my physical evolution. I don't like. There's no person who I was having sex with long enough across years that could have seen me go from girl to like today. But me and my transmasculine or non-binary friends talk about this often. The macro level desire that you are given on who you should desire on a cultural level trickles down to how people engage with you as an individual. And I don't think that I am desired as much in this body the way I adorn this body in the same way that I was as a girl / woman person, feminine more. I don't think that because I don't bind, I'm not rigid, masculine, walking and presenting. I'm not the most buff person. And so I'm somewhere like fluctuating in between this hip ass possessor, and I never quite hit that hyper masculine body that I think is desired, even on trans people. Like, I think trans men who are like, they love the JCons of the world, that buff, fit. Even if we know JCon is a trans man, there still is like, you still must have an aesthetic of a man.
That they align with that man aesthetic in a way that makes it still appealing.
Yeah, and I don't think that people who are non-binary identified but still are tapped into their divine femininity, I don't think our bodies are desired in the same or with as much frequency and vigor. People is not like, me and my friends talk about this. If we a little pudgy, or if we don't bind, or if we're like fucking with the gender thing, it's like, y'all ain't studs, y'all ain't trans men, and y'all not really ripped. it's an awkward, interesting place to feel like you lost capital by shifting to masculinity.
Yeah.
Because you're not consuming masculinity all the way. But you don't have the girl capital no more because you're not the feminine capital no more because you're not adorning your body in a feminine way. So it's just very interesting.
But I think that's even, I can see that in how folks fetishize studs too, because the ones that they really fetishize studs, they present in their physicality is more in that masculine realm, even if like they not on moans and buff or whatever. Even the studs that I see people going up for, it's not like the more feminine studs. It's the ones that, you know, kind of maybe a little bit broad up here, ain't got too much hip. They might
like
got
the
a
young
little
amazing
booty. Yeah, I see that. I see that. I never had somebody contextualize it. Or
people love Young M.A.'s. I think Young M.A. I love Young M.A. too. I mean, I think she's cool, but people love the Lena Waithe. They love the slim, tall. But Young M.A. is my height, but she's still, and Young M.A. embodies and performs masculinity in a way that is sometimes toxic, but is very like binary. Like I would consider her, I don't even, and this is why I hate speaking English. And then you have like the Lena Waithe who are taller. And I also say if I was about 5'6", 5'7", I think that I would be more.
But that's still leaning towards the masculine.
Yeah, because masculinity and height have a direct relationship.
Direct relationship.
And there is not as much people drape me in affirmation around my brain. I am filled to the tip top of desire for intellect. That is not equal with being draped in desire physically, or my lover spending time with my physical body. People often be like, well, I was attracted to you first based on your conversation or based on your intelligence. I'm not the person that walks into a room and people are like, who the fuck is that? I'm the person that you wind up falling for by the end of the night because you spent time talking to me at a fucking club. But I am not that girl who turns heads as soon as they walk in. That's not me. I'm not that person. That's Young M.A.
That surprises me though. That surprises me because I think you're attractive, and I think you dress in an attractive. I think how you present it makes it attractive. So that's why it's surprising to me that you say that is not your experience, because you seem to present it in a way that I would feel like people would gush over.
But I also don't. I have a hard time maintaining the gaze with the woman because I don't want it to come across like cruddy man. You know, I don't want to feed into and make women feel grossed out. Like I don't need that in my life.
Nobody wants that.
And because I know both what that feels like, and I have a lot of friends who still exist in that world with the street harassment and the dudes don't give a fuck. I need 0.2% of the confidence of these cis dudes, not even a full.
No. Don't explain that. I want you. What I'm saying is, you have style. You have a style. You have style. You have a good style. So how you present your whatever you just described, it seemed like that because you presented that way with style, and it still has this stud trans masculine quality, I would feel like people would gush over that. I can't
but I also have ass and thighs and all that too. And like you just described, they like the broad that gets slender.
Okay.
Even if it's stylish, even if it's less stylish. I don't know. I don't know if the world is, and that's why I got on Roland Martin and said, I don't think Spelman College is ready for trans folk, because I don't know if the world is ready for all that comes with not abiding by rigid sides. I especially don't know if Blackness is ready for that. As much as we say the U.S. South in particular has a validating way with queerness, and it does, I still don't know if institutions are ready to make space for the depth and breadth of what trans inclusion looks like institutionally. And that all that coexists. And much like I'm saying, I don't know. And I deeply appreciate, I find myself swaggy too, but I don't know if that I don't know. I have these conversations all the time with my friends. I don't know if that translates to like desire for a physical body.
Race in America is really like, oh my God, this glaring thing. But what people don't know, well, not they know it, but what I think people don't realize is gender is the motherfucking OG oppressor. Race is quite new and fake and blah, blah, blah. Gender is the motherfucking OG. So when we talk about dismantling and disrupting and queering shit, I feel like sexuality, sexuality, I think, is a little bit more of motherfuckers is kind of wrapping their minds around it. But accepting queerness in the gender shit, I feel like it's really, really difficult. I think that's going to be much more difficult than race, than sexuality. I think queering the gender shit is just something folks, I don't want to say they ain't ready for it, because shit, they always not ready for something when we trying to make shit better for people. But it's something about the gender thing that is just so deep. Like I said, it's the OG. And so, like I was watching this documentary, I'm not gonna get into details of that, but it's called The Ascend of Women. And they go all the way back to, I mean, like before the Bible, gender oppression. Like, I mean, like back. And so, and when I think about that, I was like, damn, like, so female oppression has been around. It's like the fucking yes. And so it's not that I don't think they're ready. I think it's just gonna be a longer fight.
Yep. It is deeply rooted.
Yeah. Gosh.
I think if I dated white girls, I would have 10 girlfriends. But I don't. So there's no point in having that conversation.
I think we all have that kind of, I think everybody has that kind of that no. I know I had that experience. I feel like if I wanted to date white men, that I would be booed up and married or something. But because I don't, because they stay in my inbox, hit me up. But because I don't even like pink penises. I like color. I like melanin. I like people darker than me. I barely like light-skinned dudes. So it's just something about them. And then I don't want to, Janicia from Tea with Queen and Jay podcast, she was like, I don't want no white man in my house drinking my juice. Which I love. That makes sense. I like just a white man in my house and I got to navigate being in my house. No, thank you. No, thank you.
I dated a white person for 2 years back in my early 20s, and that was it.
Gosh. So I got one more question for you. Why is Hebrew 11:1 your favorite scripture?
Okay. First of all, it defines faith pretty succinctly, but it's oxymoronic. So the beginning is faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And when I think about that, I'm like, how do you have substance of something you only hope for? How do you have evidence of something you have not seen? Yo, that's next level. The shit just blows my mind. If I have this chapstick, this is substance. It's in my hand. I'm not hoping for this. I have evidence of the fact that I have this chapstick. I've seen it. It's not unseen. So you telling me that it's like a chat? And I had somebody else the other day laughing. I was like, I challenge God. I'd be like, so you said, so show up. But faith is opposite. Faith is like literally believing, like, you follow the Jackson Family Values Instagram page? It's a family of the mom and the dad. They met at Cheney. I think they went to Cheney for college. They're like 33. And they have 3 kids. Tyreek June. The mom is Rochelle, I think her name is. The dad is Tyreek. Verlonda and Tyreek Sr. And then they have Tyreek Jr., Ava, and Judah. And Judah, like 50 days ago, almost drowned. And the doctor said he have a 20% chance of living. Bruh, I have never seen immediate faith ever. It's partially why I'm like, I can't be a parent, because the sheer what it takes to be a parent, next level. As soon as they said it, the mom was like, no, he was at St. Christopher's first, a hospital, a children's hospital. They said he has a 20% chance of ever thinking, seeing, or walking again. And the mom immediately, when she finally could tell the story, at that point, she had ordered that he be moved from St. Christopher's to CHOP, which is Children's Hospital of Pennsylvania. She immediately said, he is the 80%. And the doctors was like, ma'am, I don't think you understand. Pull the plug. This kid is brain dead. He was underwater for 7 minutes. There's no way. Diamond. Day before yesterday, Judah got moved out of the PICU into the rehab. He breathing on his own. They're trying to teach him to track and focus again. Faith is when a physician tells you your child, who is 4 years old, who was underwater 7 to 10 minutes, has a 20% chance, and you immediately say he's the 80%. The doc, period. Like, that is talking about substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen.
Yeah.
Faith is one of these things that is like, you know how they be like, oh, Tamia is an underrated artist, or oh, all of these people that we love, who is the most underrated artist? Faith is one of the most underrated characteristics that gets you so very far. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to even try because he's not my child. I don't have no children. But if you had told me 20%, it's also saying, yes, science is great, but who I serve is the author and finisher of all of this shit. Hebrews 11:1 lays out faith so clearly and so succinctly. And I just think faith is an overlooked attribute. It is just overlooked and undervalued.
It's the power of, if you take it out of Christianity and if you're talking about actually putting your faith in the work, the spiritual work that you do, that you believe, you are manifesting that this is going to happen. This is what's going to get, this is what I'm owed, or what I'm going to be blessed with. This is what I'm going to be manifesting. This is what I'm going to call into my life. It is what I'm going to get. It's not, oh my God, I wish I get this. I don't know if I deserve this. It is, this is mine already. I just got to wait for it to come. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out, it's Ephesians, which is my second favorite.
Okay.
Ephesians 3:20.
Okay. What's that?
Now unto him who is able to do above and beyond all we can ask or think. This is God, and this is not Christianity, God. This is God saying, can you imagine somebody telling you, I can give you above all you could ask or think? I mean, you can't even think about how bomb and fire your life gonna be. That's all. Not above all you could ask, because to ask means you thought about it. You can fathom it. But above all you can ask or think.
Yeah.
That's the type. That's what I'm talking about.
I need those type of blessings. Yes. So I really appreciate you spending time with me. I really, like I said in the beginning, I think you are one of the most brilliant people that I know. You make me think. You make me, you know, even if I've thought about it, and even if we think about things in the same way. I remember you told a story about your great grandmother Dorothy, which I was
grandma.
Your grandma, and like I literally I have what you typed out. I was gonna read it just to honor her, but we done talked into so much. But
yes.
Just thinking about certain things that I've already thought about, but just how you articulate it and how you say it and other things you bring into the fold. I just love seeing the status update and just what you think about things. So I love it. And I wanted to share you with the people and tell them where they can find you.
Instagram at Ignorant Intellectual. What is that? Twitter at Ignorant Intellectual. Facebook at Ignorant Intellectual. All the places at Ignorant Intellectual.
And I'm gonna put them links in the bottom. And yeah, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Boom. That was easy.